Welcome to another episode of SyncRiffs. Thank you for joining us. My name is Charles Levan, president at Blue Buddha Entertainment, LA-based sync agency. It's June, and in honor of Black Music Month, we have a very special guest in the studio. I'm so happy to introduce KCRW DJ and music supervisor here in Los Angeles, Francesca Harding. Good morning, Francesca.
Good morning, Charles. Thanks for having me. This is so cool.
Absolutely. So good to have you in the studio and shine a spotlight on your great work in the industry. And want to set things up for our listeners. You're a music supervisor and you are a DJ at KCRW. And over the last decade, you've paved your own way in the industry, working on shows like 911, Saturdays, and also Kings of Napa, to name a few, in addition to film and trailers. You navigate that space. But yeah, tell us, we'd love to dive in and find out how you first broke into the industry.
So I DJ'd for quite some time. I actually used to be in education. I'll keep it short. I used to be in education and I was living on the East Coast. I got a master's degree in educational policy. And once I got that degree, I was like, I absolutely do not want to do this. Not now anyways. And so I was driving back cross country, coming back to LA, which is where I'm from. And I remember being like, I've always wanted to learn how to DJ. So I had a master's degree. I was a full grown woman. And I was like, I really want to do this music thing. And so like a nerd, I Googled DJ school, found a DJ school, in West LA, took some classes, fell in love. And that's kind of where my journey in music began. As soon as I got, DJ gigs, I left education. And I want to say I will return, but when I'm, 75, because I miss the kids, but, it was a little draining. So that's the plan for the future. But yeah, so I was DJing around town, got into radio. I had a radio show, or a friend of mine actually had a radio show. And I was like, I've always been interested in radio. Can I help? And he was like, yeah, join the team. And that was KPFK 90.7. It was a late night show. It was 2 a.m. To 4 a.m. every Friday night. So we'd gig, and then we'd go to the station. And I did that for many years. And then I was like, okay, I have this love for film and TV. I learned what, music supervision was. And then I was like, how do I kind of break into this thing? And so I love school. So I took a music supervision class at UCLA Extension. And then I was like, this is actually what I really want to do. And it kind of just went from there.
Amazing. And tell us more about Correct. And then from the initial station, when did you start spinning at KCRW?
So I'm on KPFK. I love KPFK. Long live 90.7 FM in LA. And it just so happens that there's a gentleman named Anthony Valadez. He's a DJ at KCRW, and right now he does morning Becomes Eclectic with Navina Carmel. And he and I knew each other. We DJ'd together before. We had each other's cell phone numbers. And so I'm on KPFK. It's like 3:00 in the morning, and I was playing a Young Fathers song. This must have been like in 2016 or something. I'm playing Young Fathers. I love this band so much. And Anthony, for whatever reason, just kidding. I don't know why. Maybe he was a fan, but he was on KCRW at the time, but he turned on KPFK 90.7 and he heard me spinning Young Fathers. He sent me a text like, wow, you're spinning Young Fathers. So we had an interaction, and I was like, yeah, I love the band. He said he loved it too. And then in 2021, so years later, KCRW was looking for new talent. And he hit me up and he was like, I remember you played Young Fathers. You have really good taste. I think you'd be a great addition to the station. And yeah, he recommended me to Anlit, and Anlit, she heard a demo and she was like, no, you're great. You love Young Fathers. I really credit the band, to be honest, for helping me to kind of segue to KCRW. And KCRW is just a dream. I love the station so much. It was always a dream station for me to be a part of. So since October 2021, I've been an official on-air DJ, and it's been so cool.
Yeah, congrats. Every Tuesday nights, folks can catch your show. And Correct,
10 p.m. to 1 a.m. PST. And then you can always catch the archive if that's too late for you.
Yes, and don't forget your blog. I love the post you wrote about Larry Levan, Paradise Garage, house music.
back, COVID times when there was like a little bit of downtime and people were like baking bread and learning how to roller skate. I was like, I love to write. And so I was
Yeah.
writing some blog posts just like about music stuff. I don't have time to write like I was, a couple of years ago, but it's really nice to be able to
Yeah,
do.
no, I love, and catching your set list sets online. Everything from Prince, Funkadelic, Neo Soul to current day bands that are popping. And I'll save that question for the end of what bands on your repeat at the moment. But so from KCRW, the transition to music supervision, working with Amanda Creek Thomas and the team at Yayteam, how did that come about?
When I first started in music supervision, so like I took this class and then I ended up finding a just job announcement on Indeed.com
Uh,
for a music assistant position. And I applied for it. I think my radio experience, to anyone listening who's like interested in pivoting, or like breaking into music supervision, I ended up landing this job. The job was with Tracy McKnight, who's a
oh, okay.
veteran music supervisor who's been in the game for a really long time, my
Yeah.
first mentor. And I did ask, like, okay, I know you got hundreds of applicants. Like, how
Mhm.
was I someone who stood out? It was actually like a front office person who was like, well, I passed your resume on to Tracy, and it was because of your curating experience. Because I had put that I had been doing radio and I had curated for the Line Hotel, like their lobby music. So, just
Mm,
kind of like tailoring your resume in a way that's just kind of like showing that you have this ability to curate, what I think is really helpful and helped me stand out. So I was working with Tracy.
mhm.
Tracy is a boss. We know that. And, she really kind of threw me into the deep end. She had several indie projects that she was working on and she needed the help. So it was great. She just taught me the gamut, from licensing to creative pulls and everything in between. And I worked with Tracy for about a year. And then I was like, okay, I'm still new to music supervision. I want to find my niche. What's going on with the trailer world? Ended up working in trailers for maybe 4 years, I think, in all. 2 years at Motion and ad agency, and maybe three then, and then another year at Workshop Creative. And I
Nice.
love trailers, but I was like, after working in trailers for some time, I'm like, okay, I think I want to pivot back to long form storytelling. And so
Yeah.
Amanda Creek Thomas was looking for help at Yayteam.
Mhm.
She's amazing. And I interviewed and she was like, come on, girl. So I've been
Amazing.
with Amanda for almost 2 years now.
Wow.
Mhm.
Time flies by, but no, from trailers, and shout out to Danny Exum at Workshop Creative. And so, yeah, talk a little about, you know, two sides of that coin, because from working with trailers to television and film, totally different animal. So with trailers, how did you find the pacing and what was kind of your experience there?
Yeah, I mean, trailers are such a different beast.
Mhm.
And I loved how fast paced it was. Like
Mm,
that was great. It was great to be able to like learn that pacing and then to nail it.
mhm.
Um, and I love how a lot of times you are focusing on the creative, whether it's sound effects pulls or music pulls. There's like less clearances when it comes to trailers, bigger budgets, which is
Yep.
really nice. So and then yeah, I was blessed in that a lot of the campaigns we worked on were just like for a project that were really cool and interesting. And then I
Mhm,
always
mhm.
had like bosses that were really cool. Danny Exum is incredible. And then at Motion, I worked with Sanaz
Ah,
Levadian and Matthew Bailey and Marina Polites. And so just I've always had like really great teams that I've been like under the tutelage of and just like learning from the best. So
yeah.
I really liked trailers.
Mhm.
I think that if you're in trailers, you just have to have a very specific love for trailers. And
Mm,
there's a certain je ne sais quoi that all of those people have that I didn't, which makes them really successful at trailers. Um, Danny Exum likes to say that trailers are like this. It's like the crossway, he says it more eloquently, between art and commerce and the
mhm,
ability to be able to like, sell a product in a way that's artistic. And I just
mhm.
think that, yeah, those guys like had that thing. And I was an English major and I'm like, I want to help like tell the story as opposed to help sell the story, even though both sides are equally important. So when I had the
Yeah.
opportunity to pivot, I took it for sure. But I love trailers. I love it. I love it all. I love music.
That's so dope. No, I can agree more. It's same with, you know, both of us, me being a sync agent and then previous DJ in my other life, so to speak. And like you said, every song we hear, I'm sure this happens with you as well. We see a picture in our head. We're like, what can this sync to? What scenes, what emotion, what storytelling, what's happening there? And then I'm sure you do this as well, Francesca, but same with when you watch a music video. It's sort of all that critical eye. Is the storytelling, is the arc following what we're hearing?
Literally.
And for better or for worse sometimes.
For better or for worse. I had to catch myself because, when I'm like, we're always obviously like ingesting new music, listening to music. And I was listening to new music with that eye all of the time. Like, how can I use this? As opposed to just like enjoying the art for the art. And I'm like I can't use this. Like, what? So, and I have to like take that hat off sometimes. So it's really great. I feel like it's inevitable that is going to happen, and it's a skill to have that critical like ear when you're watching a film or a trailer, or even like a DJ set. Like Chris, the DJ. We all do it, but it's also nice to be able to just like calm down and be in the moment.
It's tough, yeah, because I was in radio promotion back in the day at Capitol, so it's like for me, it's the hook. If I don't hear the hook right away, I'm like, but it's like, the ADD of listening to music.
Siri, I have a friend, he's a young up and coming artist, and he will share his music with me, and it's great, and I play it on KCRW on my show when I can. But I was telling him, like, I probably dedicate maybe 4 seconds to every song that I listen to initially. And he was like, I know it sounded terrible, but it's like, that you are getting hundreds of songs every day, and there's just like no real way to keep up. But you do your best. It's just kind of like 4 seconds is kind of a lot when you're trying to figure out like where to file this like piece of song to access later, right? But I guess we just do what we can.
Yeah, I call it bandwidth. I've got some years on you. I've got grays, but it's like as we get older, and then you just like there's no bandwidth to take in more music because sometimes depending what's happening on your day. But to tie that thread, Francesca, I was just curious. Your work with curating playlists for the hotels. What was kind of your approach there as far as obviously, is it similar to, when you do a set list for an event? I know you spent like at Coachella in the past, but with a hotel, is it everything? Are there peaks and valleys, or just kind of keep it chill?
I kept it pretty chill. But there was, there was still room to kind of breathe and go cross genre with it. I don't think I was I included anything that was like 125 BPMs or something. So I think it was like from 85 BPMs to maybe like 115, 120 maybe. But yeah, it was definitely just kind of like feel good, warm cross genre music. But I had been DJing at it's not Pot Lobby. It was the commissary. It was called Commissary. I think it was when Roy Choi was the chef at the Line Hotel. And so sometimes they would have like Sunday brunch. Well, they'd always have Sunday brunches. And so they'd have DJs. And I would do that. So like I kind of got a vibe from there, just being able to like DJ in real time. And then this woman who was working there as like the manager was like, oh, if you want to help curate, you can do that. So that was cool.
That's so dope. Yeah, it's just amazing to your point between restaurants, cafes. I would imagine that space, that market, correct. They're competition wise. There's companies that's their specialty.
Yeah, for sure. So it was a pleasure to be asked to do it. Yeah, I know that's like a really specific kind of world, but it's cool if you can get your foot in the door to do that.
Yeah, no, really, real good points there. And so that said, I can only imagine. So let's take like say 911 when you're working on a project, you get the script, you read through it, you identify that sonic palette or brand of who the characters are and what might fit for that show. But then you just must have, from the music you get and curate for KCRW, I mean, you're tell us about your process, your playlist, and walk us through.
Ooh. So 911, we just finished season 6.
Uh-huh.
Season 7 was greenlit. So after the
Yes.
strike, we'll see when we go into production with 911 again. But I came on during season 6, and so by season 6, like the sonic palette had been established for sure.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
there's kind of like a sound to 911. So for me, it was really just about like being able to understand what the editors and our showrunner kind of, and the EPs kind of like look for, and then trying to be as creative within those confines as possible.
Mhm.
But 911's, yeah, it's a really fun show. I think for me with KCRW, the radio, it's just, I can, to KCRW's credit, they really do give the DJs freedom
Yeah.
to curate as they see fit. I
Mhm.
think that we're encouraged, right, to like look to see like what are the top songs on
Mhm.
KCRW, and if you can, like, if it makes sense to incorporate some of those songs into your set, but like no one is breathing down our necks saying you have to play this. So it
Right.
really is complete total freedom, which
Mhm.
is lovely. So I can play the slowest of slow songs.
Yeah.
I can play up tempo, cross
Mhm.
genre, every era, even though I mostly play new music, but I'll throw in classics as well. So it's just really like I don't have to think about like how does this song function?
Right.
Are there 3 parts? Does it get big in the back end? It's just really like the art is the art. And so it's really nice to have like that outlet. And so it's great to balance out the 9 to 5 where I'm just like, this
Mhm.
would work in a montage scene. Like really kind of categorizing
Mhm.
music,
Mhm.
which is it's all a pleasure to do, but I
Mhm.
can just kind of like, hey, I like this song because I like this song, so I'm gonna put it on the radio. So it's cool to have the balance.
That's so
Did
cool
I
that
answer that question? Maybe I didn't answer your question.
No, 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 you did, absolutely, because it's and to thread it even more, I was gonna say is with as far as montage scene goes, does every episode have it just kinda depends on what's on the script.
It depends on the scripts, but
Yep.
911, we love a montage. We love a montage moment for sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it'll be like an indie kind of mid-tempo paced, even like singer-songwriter, kind of a song that'll thread those montage moments together, which is really nice. And 911 also kind of has like a not the shabbiest of budgets.
Yes.
Let me say that again. 911 has a
Mhm,
healthy budget.
mhm,
So
mhm.
it is also nice just sometimes to have like a little bit more money to give to indie artists who are up and coming, whose songs like work really well to picture. Because I do work
Yeah,
on other shows where the music budget is much smaller and there's like a
right.
voracious appetite for music. And so you really are just kind of like asking
Mhm.
sync agencies and artists to let us use their music for a really small amount of money, and you wish you could give them more. And sometimes people are like yes, and they understand, and other times folks are just like no. But when you have more money, like holler
Yeah.
back, and that's completely fine, right? But it's also
Mhm,
nice to work on shows that have like a little bit of a more healthier budget, and you can like
mhm.
offer higher fees when you can. Sometimes we have like so many needle drops in
Right.
911, and like the songs are so recognizable that I'm like, hey, there's a Van Halen song. So I don't have that much money
Yeah.
to give to an indie artist, but on other episodes you can do so, and it's really cool.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously your relationships with the one-stop reps, that's where that comes in handy, obviously when budgets are tighter, plug and play. So you your Rolodex is packed, obviously. And then it comes down to does the song fit for the scene? So yeah, that's I was gonna just kind of bookend that with as far as learning curve goes, advice for folks who are looking to either get in on the music supervision side or on the sync agency side,
Yeah.
clearance I know is huge, but once you kind of got that under your belt, what else is kind of, navigating your way that, you would say, hey, brush up on this.
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, listen, I feel like I just started, even though I started in 2018. I feel like a newbie myself in a lot of ways. And I'm like, give me advice. What's your advice for me? Just kidding. But I definitely feel like you say being able to do clearances, I think is always going to be helpful, and give you kind of a leg up and make you someone who like EPs and studios can really trust,
Yes.
in terms of like that and managing budget. And then also just like being able to keep your kind of finger on the pulse of new music and what's coming out. And so, you're really like utilizing both sides of your brain on the
Mhm.
supervision side, like got to be organized, you have to understand numbers. I'm working in Excel all of the time, spreadsheets. At
Mhm.
Yayteam, Amanda Creek Thomas, she's just like create a spreadsheet,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like we have Bibles and processes to
Yep.
stay organized. But then it's also like the job is creative, so just being able
Mhm.
to kind of like utilize both sides of your brain. And
Mhm.
then, I think music supervision in general is just like it's so nebulous. And like, how do you break in? Like, what do I do? And there's so many people who really want to become music supervisors and they're like, what do I do? But
Yeah.
everyone's story is like a little bit different in how they were able to kind of like burst onto the scene, if you will. But
Yeah.
just like going to mixers where there are mixers, just
Mhm.
building actual relationships where you can, being persistent. Like I have people who have hit me up on LinkedIn. I haven't checked my LinkedIn probably now in like 2 years, but I was like, I need to get back to it. But just like
Mhm.
when I was checking it, messages on LinkedIn, and then I cold messages, and if I could, I would
Mhm.
respond and maybe hop on a phone or hop on a Zoom.
Yeah.
So it's just like trying to build those relationships as best you can. There's always like the Guild of Music Supervisors who will have like mixers or events for people who are up and coming, or programs even that are geared toward
Mhm.
people of color, or people who just want to be a mentee
Mhm.
to working music supervisor. So just like really just trying to figure out how to like get yourself in front of people, whether it's like IRL or
Mhm.
online. I think that really just kind of goes a long way, because then, if
Yeah.
I hear of an opening, I could be like, oh, that young person on LinkedIn had
Mhm.
this interest, and I can like send the job their way or forward a resume, So I think like that's really kind of key.
Really good advice there. And to echo what you said, somewhere past music soups that we had on in the past, like you said, there's no substitute for, pressing the flash at an event, FaceTime, because, you guys get, I'm sure, hundreds to thousands of emails. And if you can't do your job if you're answering everybody's emails and prioritizing. But so, Francesca, as far as mentor mentorship programs, you mentioned, are there any particular within for by the by POC community that you can share, and then we can post up in the links?
I will get some
Uh-huh.
links together for
Cool.
sure. Like right now, I unfortunately am not active in
Yeah.
any mentorship programs. I know the Guild of Music Supervisors definitely has one, and I've been asked to mentor, and I haven't been able
Cool.
to do that time wise. Score. I don't know if you know Score.
Yeah.
There, Jordan Passman is so cool. Shout out
Mhm.
to Jordan
Yeah.
forever. The last mentorship program I was a part of, Jordan and Score, they were sponsoring.
Uh-huh.
That was probably like 2 years ago, unfortunately, because I do want to be more active in that way. But there
Yeah.
are, luckily, like there are companies who are really kind of dedicated to trying to level the playing field in some way. And then I will say with Yayteam has something called a Q&A. It's
Cool.
monthly. You can apply to become, to attend the Q&A. And it's basically like there are 4, maybe 5 spots that are dedicated to people who are interested in breaking into the business. And so someone at Yayteam, it's a small company, so one of us will host, and
Yeah.
then we will invite some kind of a practitioner for music supervision, whether it's another music
Cool.
supervisor or, someone on whatever the pitching side,
Sure.
to be a guest. And then like the up and coming music supervisors can like field questions, like ask, like, how did you break in to the business? And so with Q&A, again, it happens monthly. It's like a really intimate space. So that's really nice. And 2 of the spots are, we try to prioritize for Black up and coming music supervisors.
Cool.
We do try to like open it up to like POCs for
Yep.
sure in general, but the idea, and it started before my time, but the idea was like having at least two spots, or maybe just two spots for Black folk
Uh-huh.
specifically. But we get like diverse people. It's
Yeah.
open to everyone, and that's always really nice. So I've had Danny Exum, I've had Matthew
Yeah.
Bailey, Bert. I don't know if you know Bert Blackerack. He music supervised Wonder Years, the new iteration, and he's a composer. So just
Yeah.
like having like really cool folk, just being like, "This is what I did. Here's my advice," in such an intimate setting, and then you can have access to them because we share their email address. So if you have like
Yeah.
questions later on down the line, so I know these programs are really important, and I feel like a heel that I'm not more involved.
No. No,
But
that not at all. And that's huge because I wasn't aware of the of Q&A, and that's so
Mhm.
cool. We'll share that through, and that's exciting because last month was AAPI month, and we had Angela Leas, Rudy Chung on, and between Universal and Netflix, we linked through to their programs. We'll do the same with what you guys are doing. That's really cool. It's because like you said, and just to thread the needle, Rudy Chung had brought up about whether it's by POC, AAPI, artist writing songs, leaning into the storytelling, because inevitably productions are going to have storylines and arcs that they need authentic music from the various communities. And that's critical.
it really is. And I think that it's an exciting time where, all of us like suddenly, stories that are every day that you and I like see every day we want to see on film are
Yeah.
being greenlit, and that's lovely. And I know some people are like, this is new, but it's just like, well, actually, like, at least if you're in a diverse city, it's just kind of like these are our stories. This is what
Yeah.
we know. And so like all of a sudden, like what we know is being reflected on screen. And so I don't know. I wouldn't call it a golden age, but it's something akin to that, and I'm really excited. And I just hope
Yeah.
that like these stories continue to be told because it's what we want,
Hmm.
what we've always wanted. But then they have to
Yeah.
be told in the right way and not like in this way where it's a Vietnamese story, but there's a white showrunner. Like, well,
Right.
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So like, let's have people who are like of the community and who understand being in leadership positions so that the story makes sense. So yeah, I'm just excited for us to continue to trend in the right direction.
Yeah, 100% Francesca. And it's interesting because I'm a big fan of, Danny Boyle from Train Spotting and then when he did Slumdog Millionaire, but it's just an interesting arc of, like you said, and then the focus with, on AAPI with Crazy Rich Asians, but like you said, having it be consistent and not just, oh, this year we're going to focus on this community.
And now 2025, Liberians, Europe.
Right.
But you got 12 months and then we're moving on. Like, well, is that what we're doing? Yeah. So just
So,
yeah, I feel like the conversations are happening,
yeah.
and we'll let's stay positive, but I think that we're
Yeah.
trending in the right direction.
So speaking of that, AI, what's the buzz around the office, artificial intelligence with music? And have you guys been chatting about that?
Listen, the jury is still out.
Yep.
This is ridiculous, but okay, so I don't know if you heard on Tuesday that we are getting a new Beatles song.
Tell me more. I did see a brief clip, but I'm not fully up on it.
Listen, not a lot of information has been shared so far,
Uh-huh.
but this is such a stupid answer to your question, but let's roll with it.
Sure.
So Paul McCartney is like, listen, there's one final Beatles song that is on its way. He didn't share a title, he didn't give a release date, but apparently there's this old demo from 1970, and with John Lennon's vocals.
Uh-huh.
And with the help of artificial intelligence, this demo is being reworked in a way where the song can be like mixed and mastered property and blah blah
Wow.
blah. And so I'm like, well, maybe AI will have its place I think
Mm.
that there are people who are just kind of like, AI is going to take our jobs. But at the end of the day, like, there is no substitution, right, for like a real human curator.
Right.
I don't see it happening. Maybe I am naive, but again, like, I don't think that there's ever going to be a substitution for the personal touch. But there's like
Mm.
AI, it spans the gamut, and that's why I'm like, the jury is still out, but I imagine that, like, where it all lands, there's going to be some benefits to it, and then some ways where we're just like, okay, this is ruining our lives. You know, what
Right.
to do? Do you have any like specific thoughts on AI, like in general?
I'm with you. I think, as far as the conversation about folks talking about, well, 2 points. One, which is interesting, and I've heard some clips of songs that were the vocals were
Sure.
AI, and I couldn't tell the difference. So that was scary. The potential to replace a singer or backup or vocal harmonies, but you know that's to be TBD.
Well, yeah, I feel like that's the slope. That is the slippery slope that we want to stay away from, that leads straight to hell. Yeah. I thank you for for bringing that up. I think it's really dangerous,
Yeah,
unless like an
yeah,
artist consents. Like, I heard that
yeah,
Bruce Willis was consenting to have his like likeness utilized, because I think that he's fighting a debilitating disease at the moment. And
yes.
so I heard that he was like giving rights to his likeness, his voice, so that like they could be used in future movies.
Mm,
That is something that's incredible. If that is actually the case, he has consented. But if they're
hmm.
doing that with like Prince, who was very adamant about like no posthumous albums after I die, do not do this, do not do that. And then
Right.
AI, like has an ability to like do that, which would have been against someone's wishes. Yeah,
Yeah,
the slipperiest of slopes, straight to
yeah.
Hades.
It's 100%. And as far as technology goes, what's interesting is it was making the rounds because Apple podcast interviewed Damon Albarn of the Gorillaz. And did you hear about, for the riff for the song Clint Eastwood? Did you hear
Mm.
about the origins of that?
Mm-mm.
Oh man. So basically, long short, it's like he called it the Rock One preset that was on a electric keyboard similar to Casio. Note for note, that opening line for Clint Eastwood, Gorillaz, it was straight from it was a preset from a keyboard. And same with the drum pattern, but it's what they did with it that made it stand out. But it's fascinating because,
Yes.
same with Depeche Mode. A lot of the patches on synths, it's what you do in the studio, how you produce it, how you
Yeah.
augment
Yeah.
it, and you know, like you said, no substitute for the human touch.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
So that said, yeah, I agree 100%. Are there, because you are now, you're the master of, as far as when you hear music.
Master.
Yeah, I was as being a DJ, curating, and music supervision.
Okay.
What hits you? Like, what are the first three things that you look for in a song? You're like, all right, I'm putting this song aside. This has a special quality to it.
I couldn't say, my mother said that when she was pregnant with all of her kids, she
Mhm.
danced. She listened to a lot of music, and she danced a lot so that we would all come out with rhythm. I don't know if it's like an old, like West Indian, thought process, but music has always been really important in the family. And so
Mhm.
I've always like listened to music, and it's weird to me, like, what music would like move me to tears. I cry a lot when
Mhm.
I listen to music. And
Mhm.
then my sister, we were in the same womb, she'll listen to something in the same piece of music, and she's just like, I don't like it. And so I don't really understand like why certain things hit me the way they do, but it really is just like, when I listen to music, I'll let the emotion be the emotion and
Yeah,
engage with it the way my body wants to engage with it. So it's like I have not a logical answer to
sure.
give. But yeah, like there's just something about notes that when they hit my ear for whatever reason, I'm
Mm.
either incredibly moved or not. And I like all genres. I'm someone who, I think I would have been able to
Mm.
like go further in my DJ career if I had like honed in on a genre. I don't know if you feel the same, but like I have friends who are like house DJs, or they play global bass, or they're able to like be known for one thing, and that's
Right.
like I think helped to propel them. But I'm just like, I am in an open format DJ till the day I die. I might want to throw in some country music into the set if it makes sense, But I'm
Yeah.
really like playing like all genres, and so it really just any kind of music can affect me in some way, and maybe bring a tear to my eye, even if it's not like an emotional song. I was
Mhm.
at Coachella. Speaking of gorillas, they're so good. But I was
Yeah.
listening to Rosalia. Rosalia was great. She was one of my favorites. And it was like song 3, Weeping. It was a banger. She's dancing.
Uh-huh.
Choreo was popping. I'm crying. Why are you crying, girl? But I'm just like, this sounds so good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I'm almost middle-aged. I don't know, but it's, it's a long-winded answer, but I couldn't really tell you. I just know that music that definitely moves me.
I couldn't agree more. Where it's cliche, but I've kind of said over my career in the space where it's like there's good music and there's bad music, and we've got to feel it. It's got to move us, and vocal wise, I think you'll agree, Francesca, where it's does the vocal take you in or out of that song? Because if you're paying attention on the the vocals were off,
Mhm.
and that harmony between the two of the arrangement and the music together. But I feel you where it's like just listening to music for its pure enjoyment. It's tough because based on what we do.
Yeah, it's so true, It's so true. But so like, do you find that when you are at the end of your day, you
Uh-huh.
want to like sit in silence to like cleanse your palate with no sound, or like how do you reset? I'm curious.
That is a great question. And I find what I've been trying to do as far as mindfulness is during the day. So to your point, staying off socials during the day as much as possible. And then at
Mhm.
night, that's when I'm not listening to music, but I'm going through, yeah.
No music, and then
Right.
you're getting visual stimulation.
Yes, yes.
I'm not mad at it. That's I like that. Maybe I'll employ that.
It's but there are days, where like you said, silence is golden, just meditation.
It's so there have been times when I've listened to so much music that at the end of
Uh-huh.
the day, I'm like, do I even like music? My ears are, and you just
Right.
gotta like, let me get back to unity some way. And then I'm like, just kidding.
Yeah.
You
So
are my first love, music. But yeah, it could get overwhelming for sure for the body.
100%. So that said, and then between that and going to a, if you're spinning out at an event at night, so what's kind of before your set or before your gig, 3 hours before, obviously you're just decompressing, no music, so you can get into that night.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I don't really want to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to like get in the zone, but I'm pretty quiet.
Mhm.
And I don't know, yeah. And then that's like my favorite. But then also too, it's like when you are at a gig, it's like not only are you gigging and you want to like have energy, but
Uh-huh.
then like you're schmoozing afterwards. There's gonna be like a lot of exchange of energy at the
Yeah.
venue, most likely. So I just try to like conserve beforehand and just like you can see this, just like meditate a little bit. Yeah. So
Yeah.
same, very similar.
100% with everything. And the last, just sort of side closing question we always like: what song is on repeat right now? What artist are you can't get away from?
So Young Fathers, Forever and Ever.
Uh,
They have a relatively new album called Heavy Heavy that has been heavy in the rotation. I love Obong Jayar. I love him so much.
uh,
I would love to see him live. He has a song called Just Cool that came out, I don't know, maybe a month ago. And I'm like trying not to put Obong Jayar in every single KCRW set. Like I have to fight to not include Obong Jayar. So I love his sound so much. I pitch him when I can, but he has such a unique sound that, you know, It's not easy to pitch him, but I do. And then
Mm.
I love Say She She. They're so cool. I mean, Say She She's just been like on repeat too. They just released a song called C'est si bon. But just
Yeah.
the instrumentation is always just like it's just I dig them. And they're part of the KCRW Hollywood Bowl
Oh,
Festival
that's right.
this year, and I think they're sharing the stage maybe August 6th. I don't know, but they're gonna be with Chicano Batman and
Wow.
one other band. So, anyways, the KCRW loves Say She She for sure. We play them a lot on the station, but I just feel like they're really cool. Their name is like a nod to Nile Rodgers.
Yes. I
Hmm.
love that track. Yeah, because that's on heavy rotation. Stacey, right?
Yeah, it was released last week, I think.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, or maybe the week before. I know I was emailing with the label like, can I play this early? And I think that was like 2 weeks ago. But
Oh,
yeah, so but they're so cool trio. I think they're from Brooklyn, but they've been doing their thing. So yeah, I would say Young Fathers, Obong Jayar, Say Shishi have been like just like playing as I do dishes and
nice.
whiffer the floors.
Yeah, that track, the vibe. What label are they on? I can't remember off the top of my head. Do you remember?
You, I talked to Tony Banyata, but that's a really good question. I couldn't tell you.
All good. No, that's because I'm sure there's certain labels that everything they send you, whether it's for consideration for music supervision or for DJ, you're just like it's
Hmm.
your go-to and everything they send you. But it sounds like it's gonna be a big busy summer. We'll post up. So in August is that the bowl, the KCRW summer?
Yeah, and I'm gonna misspeak. I think that there are three, but maybe six. So one of those events that KCRW is curating
Yeah.
for the summer. So really cool. They're all on Sunday. I'm gonna go with three, but again, it could be six. Different events, and
Cool.
yeah, just like really cool uh, artists. And the bowl is the bowl, so
Ah,
you can't go wrong with that venue. Such a historic venue. It's
yeah.
so nice to just be in LA and have access to that venue.
That we'll plant that. No, and I really appreciate it because it's 2 degrees of separation. You just gotta love. He had introduced me. It was the LA Get Down and Sheehan Van Cleef, originally from Brooklyn, LA, poet, Def Jam, and he's going to be on our panel next week, and we'll have you on the next one for next year because things didn't line up. But no, it's just crazy in LA. It's LA so vast, but
I know.
once you connect the dots, everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, and it feels kind of a small city sometimes in some aspects, for
Yeah.
better or for worse. But yeah, this is really cool. I really appreciate your
Yeah.
time. Thank you for having me. You've been very flexible with me being a little, so
No.
this is awesome, and I can't wait to do this again. And hopefully, an IRL hang is
Yes.
in order.
Yes. I 100 plus one sentiments of that. Thank you so much, Francesca, for joining us today. And thank you for everybody. Hit that like button, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the other side. Thank you, Francesca. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Charles.
Peace. Namaste. Catch you on the other side, guys.
Go.